Having even one bad night of sleep can set you up to store fat and prevent you from building muscle. This is because of insulin's important role in helping to maintain glucose. And the more deep sleep that you have is associated with better control over glucose by insulin. And research has demonstrated that poor sleep, especially, of course, chronic poor sleep, is linked with insulin resistance, which means that insulin can no longer do its job properly to maintain homeostasis of your blood sugar, leading to more fat storage, especially in the belly, but also increases your hunger hormones like ghrelin and leptin that can lead to overeating that is often experienced after a bad night's sleep. In fact, in one study that involved dogs, they compared consuming a high-fat diet to sleep deprivation on insulin. And what they found is that the dogs that had sleep deprivation had about a 33% increase in insulin resistance compared to 21% of those dogs that had adequate sleep but ate a high-fat diet for over 6 months. So now, imagine that you are sleep deprived. It sets up your body for increasing your fat storage, and on top of that, you have a higher appetite. You can see how this could be a recipe for disaster. Now, this should be enough alone to send people running to get some blackout shades or maybe purchasing their latest fancy mattress. But there is more. Sleep deprivation also slows down your metabolic rate. And if sleep deprivation is chronic, eventually your body will decrease insulin even after you eat and increase cortisol, making weight loss even more difficult and getting a good night's sleep even harder. Hi, in today's video, I am going to give you my top suggestions for getting a good night's sleep. But also, because bad sleep happens, I also want to give you a couple tactics that can protect yourself from the negative consequences of a bad night's sleep. Okay, number one for getting a good night's sleep, we want to think about our sleep hygiene. And number one on the list is you want to think about the fact that actually when you are sleeping, I used to think that our brains, were done for the night, but actually the opposite is true, and our brains are actually even more active. So the idea is where you put your head before you go to sleep is really going to affect what goes on. In other words, turn off the news, don't check your work emails, and maybe even consider doing something peaceful like doing a sleep meditation, and this will really set up your brain for a good night's sleep. Number two, set yourself on a same sleeping schedule and try to keep it within an hour. When I was in my 20s and I was working, and then on the weekends, you go out till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, guess what? This is called social jet lag, which has real consequences because it's actually, from your body's view, it's almost like, you went to a different time zone for a couple days and then you're trying to get back. Okay. Also, sleep opportunity is important. So it's not just that you are, going in bed for 8 hours. If you want 8 hours sleep, then you probably want to be in bed for like 9 hours. Just an idea. And also, number 4, keep the temperature cool. We know that everyone sleeps better at colder temperatures, as this has indicated that it was nighttime for us traditionally. And number 5, this one I can't tell enough about, is sunlight exposure, especially in those morning hours, can help regulate the release of melatonin. So in the morning, obviously we're suppressing melatonin by the bright light, and then as the sun sets, I often like to talk about candlelight or making it dark as, again, it would have happened traditionally. And number 6, turn off the Wi-Fi, because this also has demonstrated that it could disrupt your sleep cycle. This one's a hard one for me, total confession here, but nonetheless, if you can do it, okay. And then finally, only use your bedroom for sleeping or sex. In other words, take the TV out and electronics. And as far as eating goes, definitely trying to eat your last meal within 3 hours or more of going to bed. And also, alcohol would go into that same category, because even though it feels relaxing, we know that it can definitely interrupt your quality of sleep, preventing you from getting into those deeper levels of sleep. And finally, my favorite vice, coffee. Now listen, everyone's ability to process coffee is unique, but generally up to about 4 cups is well tolerated by a lot of people. But my suggestion is definitely for most to finish it by noon. Personally, I just do mine in that very early morning, like even 7 a.m. and I'm done. Because even though, the caffeine can temporarily block your body's ability to feel sleepy, when it wears off, you can get some unwanted crashing. And exercise. Exercise can help you sleep. However, it is also suggested to leave any sort of intense exercise for at least 3 hours. Okay, listen, in spite of setting ourselves up with all of the suggestions for a good night's sleep, a bad night's sleep happens to all of us. But you really do not have to let it derail your goals. And I have a few suggestions that can help to combat the potential negative consequences of poor sleep. Now, these suggestions are all meant to be worked together synergistically, because that is how they really can help benefit you the most. So number 1 is really engaging in some of this intermittent fasting. So extending the nighttime that you're not eating, hopefully, and maybe just not eating breakfast. So maybe your first meal is moved to 11 or even 12 o'clock. So that can also help lower insulin and help the metabolic dysfunction. Next would be exercise, which I appreciate can be challenging after you've had a poor night's sleep, which is why I recommend HIIT training, because in as little as 10 minutes, you can have the benefits of boosting energy, improving your cognitive function, boosting your metabolism, and also helping manage your appetite. And basically, it is an interval training, but really engaging in those high intensity movements for just short bouts. And also, of course, coffee. However, it is suggested to really do this before exercise, because it can really help as a performance enhancer as it releases fatty acids. Because there is some research suggesting that if you've had a poor night's sleep, that you might want to do it after breakfast. However, that's why I am suggesting let us move it before exercise, when we can really get bang for our buck. Finally, Mct oil. This is something I've been personally using for at least 5 years or so, and it helps absolutely with energy level, can increase fat burning, all while to help control your appetite. Now, this is what I use, but certainly what you want to look for is a high quality, it's C8 or caprylic acid, And the way I suggest using it in this case is you could just put it into your coffee. But I always tell people very carefully, please start slowly, because sometimes your body has to adjust to the MCT oil as little as a teaspoon and then up to a tablespoon or so as tolerated. Finally, of course, making sleep a priority is a very important skill. However, of course, we are all going to have that occasional bad night. But now you have a couple tools to not let that bad night turn into a bad day. Well, if you have found this video helpful, please subscribe, like, and comment below, because I would love to hear how you might use any of these suggestions or have used any of them. And of course, love to see you in the next video as well. And if you would like to know how a personal plan could be the answer for you, I would love to chat with you. And there is a link in the description below to book a no-cost call. Thank you.